How's it been so far? Your early impressions of working against Shane Bowen's defense?
Yeah, it's good. It's good competitive practices. Again, we're 2 days in, just making strides and try to get better today.
Notice you guys have been rolling Hawkins in with the ones and Deontay getting some breaks. What's behind that? Is Deontay dealing with something, or?
No, it's training camp. Okay. So we're, again, seeing different matchups. You know, there's a lot of people in. There'll be a lot of people in here for the next couple weeks.
How's training today? What's the plan with him?
A little bit better. Probably do the same thing, Charlotte, that we did yesterday with them. They have a day off tomorrow, with the hope that when we get back the next day, we'll be ready to go. And pads will start up next week after the first day.
What about Tyler Newman?
Same thing. We'll give him today the same. We'll do the same thing we did with him yesterday, with the hope that he's back here shortly.
What's wrong?
His calf's a little tight. Yeah, but nothing like, it's not long term or anything like that. We're just being smart to get through here this first week, ramp up, and hopefully next week we can get it back out there.
What the first day in pads is Monday? Is that right?
The day after the day off, it's the shells, and then 2 days of pads, or maybe 2 shells and a day of pads. I'm just on today.
You said somewhere, I forget if it was to us or on Hard Knocks, that Lawrence Cager was having one of the best off seasons, I think.
Yeah, it was in OTAs.
It was in OTAs, and now he's scored touchdowns here the last couple of days. What was it exactly that he did this offseason? What did you notice that made you say that? Because you don't give out compliments very easily.
Yeah, he's playing faster. I think he's absorbed what he needs to do in terms of understanding all the play calls, the nuances, experience in the system. And I think Tim Kelly has done a great job. He's added a lot to our staff in a lot of different areas. But he's a heck of a tight end coach.
Hey, Babes, you were pretty impressed with Malik's dog mentality when you watched him on film and LSU. I guess you saw some of that yesterday when it was one-on-ones against Tay.
Yeah, I've seen it every day I've been around him. His mentality is the mentality you need to have. He's humble, but he works extremely hard. We've moved him in a lot of places, and I'd say for a young receiver, there's a lot of times you put him at one spot. So it's a credit to him and the amount of work that he puts in. He knows he's got a long way to go. It's just a couple practices, but obviously we thought he was a good player where we selected him. I think that. I told you I love the person. I love his competitive desire, his will, his grit, if you will. But he knows he's 2 days in. He's had an OTA. He's not where he wants to be. No one is. Not anyone on our roster. Not any coach. But he's got the right mindset.
How do you keep him from, keep that channel productively, so that he doesn't go off the rails, so to speak?
I just think that's who he is. He's competitive. He wants to do well, and he's willing to do anything he can do to be as good as he can be. And he knows he hasn't played in the league. There's going to be some rough spots whenever those come up, and we're here for him. He's here for us. We communicate. We work well together. But I don't want to let him lose who he is, be who we are.
Brian, McFadden and Stoll, are those guys that you're keeping dialed back a little because of what they were dealing with in the spring?
Yeah, there's a few of those guys, Pat, that we're just, in terms of the ramp-up period, the first few days of training camp, I'd say, again, Aaron Wellman, Ronnie Barnes do a really good job of kind of individualizing all the plans for each player. It's just not everybody's the same. So we have a plan for, I'd say, a number of players leading up here into the first few days and then going into the next week. Those would be 2 guys.
Brian, a lot of times in free agency, most of the time you have to rely on your scouts and tape, for a guy you're not familiar with. You didn't have to do that with Motor, obviously. What is it about him as a guy and as a player that, okay, if Saquon's not here, that's the guy we want?
Well, I was with him for all those years, so he has very good discipline. He's the right attitude. He's got tremendous will and got a lot of grit to him. He does what he's supposed to do when he's supposed to do it. There's the dependability factor. Good communicator. He's a very good leader in the running back room. He's been around some good ones ahead of him, around Frank Gore, who's one of the best to do it here at running back. And he's not over the top loud, but I'd say he's respected by the people in the locker room, and you know, he'll do a good job for us.
What? How about Jason Pinnock and the role that maybe is a little bit bigger for him now, given the
Sure.
rest of the room?
Yeah, another guy, you know, we got, you know, and kind of groomed him, and I give him a lot of credit. Great attitude, athletic, can do some different things, playing the deep part of the field. He's extremely athletic, gifted, explosive, fast, and he's, you know, it's a new system, but he's picking it up well, and I expect him to play well.
What
Jalin
initially
Hyatt.
stood out to you about Robinson, and what has he shown so far?
Wandell?
Robinson. Allen Robinson, sorry.
Oh, veteran. Again, he's played for a long time, so he knows how to be a pro. I think he's done a good job on the field, physically, but I also think he adds an element of leadership in the room with some younger receivers, some experience. You know, there's times, it was yesterday, we were watching a one-on-one clip, and it wasn't even Malik, but it was another receiver, and I'm watching it, going through, making some corrections, and he spoke up. He said, "Hey, Daves, can you rewind that and just pause it for a minute?" And he sat there for 30 seconds and just had a private conversation with Malik on a certain technique that he saw. So when you can get some veterans in the room, whether it's a receiver room, defensive line room, running back room, that know what it looks like, know how to be a pro, that helps.
Dave, how do you work the balance of that? I mean, you got a guy who, you know, is now 30 years old. He's battled injuries. He's coming here and he's running with the third team in camp. You obviously have guys ahead of him on the depth chart who are young receivers. You spent a lot of capital on them. You know, do you kind of have to watch, you know, and make sure he feels like he's a big part of this, or still a part of this, and he's not just, I don't want to, being used as a leader? Because I've heard stories about guys that, you know.
Well, I think you hit that head on, Art. So I had a conversation with him. We were first talking about bringing him in, and you cover that. Because sometimes, you know, I don't want players coming in here expecting one thing and it's totally different. So they have to understand what it looks like and what I see it as. The expectation is it a good fit for you too, that, you know, you want to be part of it. And you know, I laid it on the line with him, and this is what it was. If you have any questions, I'll be as truthful as I can to you, and then make that decision. If it works good for you and works good for us, then it's a good partnership.
Brian, we know that Hyatt can get down the field, right? We saw that yesterday. He can present that vertical threat. What do you want to see for him to take his game to the next level?
He's, you know, him and Mike Groh. I tell you, Mike has done a fantastic job here these last 2 years. He meets all the time with Hyatt, and Hyatt has really improved since he's been here. You know, it's a different system that he came from, which is for most people, but he has put a lot of time, effort, and energy into improving his craft, and it shows up. He might not get the ball in certain things, but his routes, his understanding, his play speed. You know, you can be fast, but sometimes not play fast when there's a lot of things going on, and he has really improved in that area. Had a really good OTAs, and you know, I like the receiver room we have. There's, you know, Hyatt's been good. Slayton's had a good camp these first 2 days. You know, Wandell, Leak, and even the guys in the back we talked about, Rob, Isaiah. Like there's good competition, and look forward to seeing how it unfolds.